All right. Hello, everyone. I've brought a interesting little painting technique to you guys today. We haven't done many painting pictures, and that's because I know a lot of my friends at home probably don't have a whole lot of paints, but there are a bunch of you that do. So I did want to do a little bit of painting and get a little bit of a break from all the coloring and everything. So if you have some paints at home that you're able to find, you can do this with us, and that would be great. And what we're going to do today is we are going to create a dragonfly using pointillism. If you're not familiar with pointillism, it is a style of art that was created by an artist named Georges Seurat and back in the late 1800s. And he perfected this style, and he created it with the idea that if he creates a bunch of tiny little dots and puts them really close together, that it's going to be our eyes that blend the colors and mixes them. So instead of him sitting and taking his colors and mixing them on his paint palette and brushing with big broad strokes, which he did at the beginning of his career, he later moved to this new version of painting using just tiny little dots. Now, we're not going to sit here with a brush and do teeny tiny little dots on our paintings to create our dragonflies. Instead, we're going to use something a little bit bigger and much easier to paint with. We are going to use the Q-tip, which is going to make a nice dot for us. So what I've done is I have already drawn out my dragonfly, and I did his body in a marker so that I'm not doing everything in dots. And I have laid out some paint for myself. One of the easiest things for me to do with my kids at school is I do sometimes use disposable trays depending on the project. For a project like this, where we're going to use just teeny tiny amounts of paint, it is easier because all of them are getting different colors, and we're just using small amounts, and this way I don't have a lot of waste in paint. And we throw the trays out at the end of all the classes using them. The kids are able to wash these. These trays are pretty durable. I'm able to find these at my local grocery store here in Fayetteville, North Carolina, because a bunch of you are watching me from everywhere. I find these over at the Harris Teeter. The Harris Teeter Food Line. One of the two of those. And they're really nice. So the styrofoam trays are good when people are making them anyhow, and we complain about the environment. So I use them for paint trays. I'm able to wash them quite a bit, send them to dry, and then we can reuse them until they finally crack and break. And I find them quite easy. So I'm using them here at the house. When I paint, I use, my own palette or whatever. And it gives the kids a good place to kind of rest the Q-tip. I do have a messy mat for me that I'm going to give the kids as well, but I'm not going off the paper at all with this. But just in case they do, you've got an area to protect for your kids as well. So I've drawn my body, and real lightly I've drawn my wings. I don't know if you can see it, but I didn't really want my pencil showing as I was doing my pointillism. And I used what I had here at the house. I had a bunch of acrylic paints. I am an acrylic painter by trade. So in case you hadn't noticed my big painting hanging up in a bunch of my videos, that's what I do. In my free time when I'm not teaching, I paint pop art portraits, and I use acrylic paint. So I've got a bunch of acrylics sitting around. So that's what I poured on my tray. Whatever you have around is going to work. Probably not watercolor, though. You're going to want something that's a little bit thicker. So a tempera, an acrylic, something along those lines. You just need a teeny little bit, and as the kids run out, you could put more on. Now, this is a project that is good for students who need to sit and focus, because they are focused on these dots. I have noticed that my students that are a little bit more antsy and mobile and busy, they like these projects that are a little bit more tedious. It gets them to kind of sit down, and they're focused a little bit more, and their hands are super busy. And so tedious projects seem to be good for students that are more busybodied. All right, so what I did was I grabbed a bunch of Q-tips. Hey, Frida. Now's a good time to play with your noisy toy. A Q-tip for each color. If you don't have a lot of Q-tips or you're afraid of running out, you can have your child use a color on each end. But what I teach my students is that I'm holding it by one cotton end to help keep their fingers out of the mess. And then we're just dipping a little bit of the cotton end into the paint. And they can start with whatever colors they want. You can use whatever kind of palette. I just put just whatever colors I had. I happen to have one of these art kits laying around that someone gave to me, so I'm using up some of these teeny tiny tubes, and those work out great. So I'm going to start with actually the outline of my wings so you can see him, and I'm just going to tap, tap, tap my little dots on there, and when you run out of paint, just have your child just get more on there. And it works kind of like a sponge painting, if any of you have done that or done crafting. And let them create their own pattern for their dragonfly. And we'll start to see them a little bit more, the dragonflies, this time of year. And I love dragonflies. I think they're absolutely beautiful insects and gorgeous creatures. They do come in all colors. I love seeing them. Their wings are just so delicate and so beautiful. So I'm just kind of going around the outline of my wing. They don't have to do that. If they want to start by filling in some areas, that's fine. So you can see how long the project does take. So just by doing that, but another thing they want to keep in mind is symmetry. And symmetry is a really good art and math word. And what does symmetry mean? Same on both sides. So whatever I do to one wing, I want to do to the other. So on the top of my wing here, I did my red all the way around. I want to do the same to the other top wing. They do want to hold onto the paper because sometimes as the Q-tip comes up, it does indeed pull the paper a little bit. But that is the type of paint I'm using. I'm using the acrylic. It's a little thicker. So it is popping up a bit. No big deal. But it's giving me a really great, bright picture. So, again, use whatever you want. And all I can hear is the Descendants out there as my child decided that this is a good time for her to rewatch the Descendants movies. So let's see. So I'm going to switch colors. I'm going to switch Q-tips. You know what's great about this, parents? Clean up. When you're done, you have no brushes to wash. If you had a paper plate that you were using for this, you can just throw it out at the end. You don't have to wash it. So that is helpful. And it's going to kind of be up to you how you want to go about cleaning it up, and you can just throw out the Q-tips naturally. If you don't use them. Unless you want to try and attempt to save them for another painting project, but I suppose that would just be up to you. Usually these are pretty well flattened. Let's see. So I'm just kind of painting, and I did 4 rows of orange. I'm going to do a couple blue, so I'm putting my complement next to it. I did put yellow on there. Okay, I haven't put it on my wing yet. Let's do some yellow and brighten it up. So it's giving it just a kind of coming together. I'm not overlapping my colors at all in the way that Seurat used to do, only because, if I wanted to get other Q-tips, I would start blending colors inside the palette, and it depends on how complicated you want to get, how old your student is. If your student's younger, if they're first grade, kindergarten, I've done this with students that young, and here's the Q-tip, and let's dip it. And they've done whole paintings like that with me, small ones like this, of course. And they do understand the concept, and they have worked on it before. So they are able to do that. If your student is older, you might maybe give them the primary colors and work with them on blending, and give them a separate Q-tip for, okay, this is the one you use for, getting the orange, so they're not super blended up, or just keep pouring the paint depending on how much paint you have at your house. I'm not sure of everyone's situation, but I have done that with 3rd and 4th graders, where I've given them just the primary colors, and when they want to mix them, they're able to do that and overlap the paints. Naturally, a middle school child would have absolutely no problem doing that. It's a great way to kind of experiment with color theory and everything else. So you can kind of see that he is coming together at this point, the top wings. And there he is, and his little bottom wings are down there, and they haven't been started yet, so I'm going to give them a little bit of a go, just so you can kind of see the outline. And then when you're done, you'll have a dragonfly. If you want to paint your background, I mean, that's up to you. If your child's really enjoying this and you want to pour them some blue paint and have them give it a go, absolutely encourage them, whatever is keeping them happy. Like I said, especially if you have a child that is rather busy, and you found something that is keeping them really calm, and you find that this is soothing to them, go for it. But if you want to fill in your background, you don't want to leave this white, what you may want to do is let this dry completely, and take just a simple crayon, a simple colored pencil, and color it in. Your marker is just going to be so bold, it's going to kind of take over the colors, the paint, because it's just going to be just as bright. So, but, it's what it is. Seems like even I'm enjoying doing this now. It is a rather calming exercise. But I hope you guys like this one. I hope your student likes this, creating with the dots and the Q-tips, and hopefully you've got some paint at the house where you can sit and do this with your child. Let me know how this works out for you, if you're able to do it. If you want to see other paint projects, I'm going to do a few more, and I'd love to see them and hear from you guys. So don't forget to comment down below, and go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to keep on going and rolling with some videos for you guys. And you can also follow me on Twitter at Mrs. Mims1, number 1, because I'm the number 1 art teacher. All right, maybe not. But that is my handle. You can follow me there. And I look forward to hearing from you guys and seeing your student work. You can absolutely post it up there if you would love to. And I'll see you guys soon. Have a great day, guys.